What happens when you defy the tribal chief and fail? This week, the bloodline starts to fracture in real time. 3 episodes, 3 major shifts. Roman Reigns challenges Jimmy and Jey's loyalty like never before. And by the end of this one, somebody walks out. How will it all fall out? It's time to rewind the bloodline. If you are new here, don't forget to acknowledge us. Last week, we reviewed Backlash 2021 with Roman Reigns defending his Universal Championship against Cesaro. And we have a few quick notes to get to. A few weeks back, I mentioned some NXT cuts were coming, and sure enough, they happened on May 19th and 20th. The most notable names from this were Velveteen Dream and Drake Wuertz. And if you know, you know. But we have even bigger news on the horizon as we head towards Hell in a Cell, and I'll dig deeper that in the upcoming episode. So this week, buckle up. It is a jam-packed episode. We have the May 21st SmackDown that was built a little light on action here. So we're going to be covering 3 SmackDowns today. We're going to be covering the May 21st, the May 28th, and the June 4th, 2021 episodes of SmackDown. So let's get into it. The May 21st, 2021 edition of SmackDown kicks off with some big news. Live crowds are officially coming back, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks here on the channel, and now it's officially confirmed. WWE will be returning to touring with the SmackDown on July 16th from Houston, and the Money in the Bank that follows that weekend, July 18th. We will be covering those on the channel, so something to look forward to as we transition out of the Thunderdome. I know that will make Teddy very, very happy. So to celebrate, WWE kicks off this episode of SmackDown with a parade of champions, but Paul Heyman isn't feeling festive.
That's here in the parade of champions.
He comes out, and weirdly, he comes out to Roman's Big Dog music, which I thought was a little strange to hear again because Roman just transitioned from the old Big Dog music into the head of the table music. So Paul calls the other champions.
It's a parade of title holders.
Because there's only one true champion, and that's Roman Reigns. And he says that the real parade of champions will happen at Roman's leisure tonight, and he heads off to the backstage. And backstage, Jimmy Uso meets with Sonya Deville and says that the Usos are ready for action.
We want the smoke. Street profits.
And Sonya makes it official for next week's episode. The Usos are back. And meanwhile, Roman heads to the ring, and he is flanked by Jey and Paul Heyman. Roman says that
I believe myself to be a humble man,
teaching his son's humility so he won't brag, but the wise man will. And Paul Heyman delivers a...
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a moment here to acknowledge your tribal chief.
Full-on Roman Reigns celebration speech. Roman scared the Fiend over to Raw. He humanized Braun Strowman.
Baptized his own cousin.
He KO'd Kevin Owens. He stacked and pinned both Edge and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania.
Banishing Daniel Bryan into a life of Bella retirement.
And most importantly, he beat Cesaro with no help. Let me pause and touch on that because I missed this point in last week's WrestleMania Backlash episode. Roman beating Cesaro alone is a major moment because Jimmy's whole argument against Roman is that he constantly needs Jey to save him, but at Backlash, Roman needed no one. And I thought that was huge, and it's really going to matter moving forward in this story. So we go back to the segment. Heyman asks, what else can he do to serve the tribal chief?
bring me my cousin.
But instead, Cesaro comes out. Cesaro is looking for Seth Rollins, but he can't help hearing Roman yap. Roman mocks him for showing up with one arm, and Cesaro hits it with a perfect line.
Don't worry about that. That's just a flesh wound.
You've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look, it's just a flesh wound.
Dude, I lost it. So Cesaro challenges Roman to a rematch at Hell in a Cell, but before anything can happen,
Again.
Seth Rollins blindsides him. Seth throws Cesaro into the barricade and then curb stomps him 2 more times, and Cesaro is completely taken out as Seth has snapped again. So we move later on into the show, And Jimmy excitedly tells Jey that they've got a tag match next week, but you can tell it on Jey's face immediately. He's hesitant. Jimmy didn't ask him first, and Jey says that he has to go tell Roman. So Jey heads to Roman's locker room and he tells him about the match. And Jey says that we got a match next week, and Roman cuts him off with,
Who's we?
the tribal chief and
Right hand man, that's we.
and Roman hugs him and tells him not to forget it. So Roman has all of these mind games in full effect on Jey, and you can see that Jey is being very conflicted. He's in the middle now between his own twin brother Jimmy and Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. The only other thing that happens on this SmackDown in terms of Bloodline is the Street Profits. They cut a promo hyping their match next week with the Usos. So very light SmackDown here, but there was some really big things that happened. So the May 28th edition of SmackDown, the show kicks off with Jimmy and Jey getting hyped for their first match together in over a year. Jimmy says he can't wait, and he looks to see Roman coming in, smiling, and you can tell that Jey is still hesitant because he fears Roman's wrath. And this was really funny. Heyman leaned in to introduce Roman, and Roman cut him off, and he just Homer Simpsoned out of there. It was hilarious. Roman asks,
Y'all ready?
and Jimmy responds with that they are, but Roman wants to know what is the game plan.
What's the end game here?
And Jimmy says the end game is winning, getting the gold and putting it next to Roman's gold, and everything will be on point. Roman says,
Sounds like we gotta figure it out. I'm happy for you. Good luck.
so we get a tribal blessing before the big match tonight. But when Jimmy leaves, Jey hangs back, and you can see how Jey is just continuously being torn, and he's in the middle of all of this. And Roman asks,
Your brother talking for you now?
and Jey responds, even though I'm with Jey tonight.
You know I'm with you.
And Roman says, maybe you should tell him. Jey's head sinks into his hand because he knows he's going to have to give the bad news to Jimmy at some point, but he just can't bring himself to do it. So the tag match is happening to kick off this show. The Street Profits are out first. They grab the mic. Montez Ford says that this is going to be a clash of the Titans, and they just continue on with this very long promo. The Usos come out, and Montez is still talking. Jey continues that this is family business.
Now, we got to get you.
And our match is going to kick off right now. Jimmy and Dawkins are in first with a collar and elbow tie-up. Dawkins hits a big shoulder tackle, and Montez and Jey both tag in, and Jey takes over, but it's short-lived as Montez hip tosses Jey into a hold, and that's where I get annoyed. For me personally, I feel the Profits are so extra to just be mid. So all four men hop into the ring, and the Profits clothesline the Usos to the outside and send Jimmy over the announce table as they take control of this match. We come back from commercial, and Dawkins has Jimmy in a shoulder lock and trying to tag Jey, but Dawkins drags Jimmy over for a tag to Montez. So Montez hops in. Jey gets the blind tag, and he sends Montez into the barricade on the outside. Montez is stumbling around, and Jey hops out. He sends him into the barricade once more. Jey is now in full control, tagging Jimmy in as they hit a backbreaker to Montez. The camera cuts to Roman in the back, who is watching his cousins, and Jimmy hits a big suplex, and he tags Jimmy back in again. And Montez is trying to fight back as Jimmy hits a sliding chin lock. Montez is now starting to fade. Jey tags Jimmy back in once more, and Montez comes to life, hitting both with punches in the corner, and he goes to tag Dawkins in, but Jimmy holds his leg.
I think it was a standing verb, and Jey.
Montez is diving for the tag, but Jimmy drop kicks Dawkins off of the apron, and he misses the tag. Jimmy hits an enormous Samoan drop, but Ford is able to count out at 2. We come back from commercial, and Jey has Ford up in the corner, and he's trying to hit a superplex, but Jey hits a big uppercut, and Ford falls to the apron. Montez hits Jey with a kick, and he climbs to the top rope. Jey ducks out, and both men hit double clotheslines, and everybody is laid out. Dawkins tags in, Jimmy tags in, and Dawkins hits a flurry of moves on Jimmy, but he's able to kick out at 2. Jimmy tries to get to the top rope, but Dawkins hits him down.
As Ford, oh my Lord!
Montez jumps over the ring. He hits a flip onto Jey, who is on the outside. He flipped over the ring post. This was such an impressive move. Dawkins grabs Jimmy over the top rope, and Jimmy slips out, and he hits a huge super kick for 2. Jimmy is sizing up Dawkins for the hip attack in the corner, but Dawkins hits a devastating shoulder tackle and a twisting neck breaker to Jimmy for a big near fall. Jimmy misses a super kick and an enziguri, but Ford makes a big blind tag. Dawkins hits Jimmy with a spine buster as Ford flies over the top with a frog splash, but Jimmy pulls Jey under the rope and he breaks the count. Dawkins takes Jimmy out to the outside and Jimmy hits Montez with a massive super kick and he gets the win. The Usos are back. Adam Pearce is in his office and the Usos enter and they want a championship match next week, and Pearce grants their wish. Jimmy leaves hyped, but Jey is upset. He hangs back because he knows he's going to have to break this news to Roman again. And the Usos will be fighting for the tag titles next week on SmackDown. So later in the show, Heyman tells Roman that Jey is here. Roman is upset about this news for next week. He asks if that's what he wants to do.
Why'd you tell me you was with me?
What happened to we? So Roman reminds Jey of everything that they've been through. Roman says that when they stick to the plan,
You close SmackDown.
when he goes with his brother,
You relegated to the opening match?
Roman doesn't want Jey to go back to a place where people look at him and say,
And say, which one are you again?
and this is a huge emphasis in this story. And Jey says he's never thought of it like that. And Roman says, well, you should, because your brother is not. So the table has been set for next week, as in the main event, the Mysterios defended their tag team titles against the Dirty Dogs, but the Usos come out during the celebration as Roman is watching in the back and he is upset, shaking his head. And here's a really interesting visual. For one, Roman is pissed that Jey is still with Jimmy, but you can tell by Jey's body language here that it continues to tell the story. While Jimmy is all hyped, Jey is uncertain. He's with his brother physically, but mentally, he's starting to check out. We will see how all of this turns out in our final episode today, the June 4th episode of SmackDown. And it starts with our tribal chief coming to the ring with his wise man, but there is no right-hand man. Roman takes the mic from Paul. He says that
I believe in being very direct about how I'm feeling.
he wasn't happy about SmackDown last week, but after counsel from his wise man and a full week to chew on it,
I changed my position on this tag team championship opportunity.
Roman says he's a giver. He's allowed it to happen. He speaks directly to Jimmy about winning, and he calls him out to the ring. But both brothers come out. Jey daps up Roman, and Roman stops. He wants Jimmy to acknowledge him.
I thought I already acknowledged you, remember? Hell in a Cell?
But he says it's not about that tonight. It's about making the family proud and winning the tag team titles. Roman wishes them luck. They called their shot, and he gets that. When Roman calls his shot, he wins. So they better do that. And remember,
Our whole family's watching. Get the job done and bring me the titles when it's over.
so that match is happening right now. The Usos versus the Mysterios for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And it starts with Dom and Jimmy in the ring. And it is still so weird to go back and see this version of Dom. It's so white meat babyface to see how far he's come these last couple of years. It is truly insane. So Jimmy takes over on Dom with a big shoulder tackle, but Dom responds with a nice drop kick and Ray tags in. Ray and Dom hit a nice double team on Jimmy for a quick count, but Jey tags in and he hits a backbreaker on Ray. Ray gets some offense in as Jimmy gets a blind tag and he takes control of the match. The match is kind of playing out like last week's match did. Once the match settles in, the Usos try to slow the pace down and wear you down. So Jimmy tags in, he locks in a chin lock, and Ray is able to get out of it. Jey got the blind tag, but Ray saw it as he hits Jey off of the apron, and then he springboarded onto Jimmy and threw him out of the ring. Ray goes for the sliding takedown, but Jey catches Ray, and he Samoan drops him onto the announce desk as we go to commercial. We come back from commercial as Ray is getting the boots to him in the corner from Jey. Jey continues with a hip attack into the corner. Jimmy tags in for a double axe handle backbreaker onto Ray. Ray fights out of a choke from Jey, and he goes for the tag, but Jimmy tagged in and he cut Ray off. The Usos continue to stay fresh here by tagging in and out, but Ray fights out of the corner as Jey posts himself, and Dom is able to get the tag in as he topes the Usos on the outside. Dom runs wild, but Jey interferes with a super kick. Dom hits a tornado DDT onto Jimmy for a 2, and he goes up to the top rope, but Jimmy cuts him off. The Usos hit a pop-up Samoan drop for a huge near fall here. Jimmy tags in as the Usos go for the double super kick, but Dom ducks it and he sends them to the outside. Ray hits a senton onto Jey, but Jimmy follows that with a super kick onto Ray. Jimmy hits Dom with an enziguri on the apron. He hops into the ring. He is tripped into a 619, but Jimmy hops up and lays Dom out, and he heads up to the top for an Uso splash.
On the other side, no way! Dominic got his knees up. Roll through, stacks him up. Here's the cover. Wait a minute, kick that.
Jimmy flies, but Dom gets his knees up. He small packages Jimmy, and he retains. The Usos have lost. But Jimmy immediately argues with the refs that he's got his shoulder up, and Michael Cole tells us on commentary that Jimmy got his shoulder up, but it was on the opposite side of the ref, and he couldn't see it. And they show us this multiple times on replay. It does show that Jimmy did kick out, but the ref didn't see it. So Roman is furious backstage, and he looks like he's going to stop. He demands that the Usos are brought to him right now. So Jimmy is explaining himself, and Roman tells them that they lost to a child.
You lost to a child.
They called their shot. They lost and embarrassed Roman and the family. Roman says,
The only thing you're lucky about is there's still time left in this show.
Go to Adam Pearce's office and fix it, because
I want this fixed tonight.
Roman says before they go,
I want you to understand my position.
they are 6-time tag champions, and they've only been on one WrestleMania. And within a year, Jey was able to main event with his head held high with Roman. And this is where things get serious. Roman looks at Jey, says, do you understand me, Jimmy?
You understand my position, Jimmy?
And Jey can't believe it. It was the thing that he was trying to get away from, but Roman was able to do that for him. Jey looks up and says,
Oh, Jey.
Roman responds with,
The way things are going, doesn't matter anyways.
and man, this is really heartbreaking to see Jey's face as Roman cuts that deep. The Usos go to Adam Pearce's office. They make their case that the ref made a mistake, and they're going to get a decision made by the end of the night, whether or not they're going to get another chance at the tag team titles. So we fast forward into the show. The Mysterios are leaving the building when they are stopped by our GMs telling them that they reviewed the footage and that we're going to get the rematch in the main event. And that's where we will close this show out here with today's main event. Jimmy and Dom pick us off again, but Dom actually comes out hot, but it is short-lived as the Usos take over early with multiple covers on him. Dom fights his way out of the corner, but Jey hits a neck breaker. Dom rolls out of the ring, and Jey hits a tope onto him, and Jey has full control over Dom. Jey has a chin lock on him. Ray was able to get a tag in, and he hit a springboard clothesline onto Jimmy for 2. Ray hits a baseball kick onto Jimmy, and then hits the baseball slide to the outside that connected this time, unlike earlier in the night whenever it was a big turning point in that match where Jey caught him and put him through the table. Ray hits the 619 on Jimmy. He tags in Dom for the finish, but Roman runs in and he hits a Superman punch on Dom.
Who the hell? Wait a minute! Roman Reigns with us!
And the match is ended by DQ. Reigns hits a spear on Mysterio, and he starts yelling at Jimmy that they are going to lose 2 times in one night. Roman throws Ray to the outside and Dom into the ring steps and to the barricade. Roman grabs the steps and he absolutely destroys Dom with them. He hits Ray with them, and he goes back to Dom for more punishment. Dom gets thrown into the ring, and he is getting pummeled by Roman. The Usos are standing in the ring watching this unfold. Roman grabs Dom. He chokes him out.
Oh, that's enough! Let him go, man!
That is not what Roman wanted to hear. Jimmy says, not like this, man. And he rolls out and he calls for Jey, and Jey goes to join his brother. But Roman steps in, and Jey stops and stays with Roman as Roman grabs Dom and he power bombs him as we go off the air. So this was an incredibly jam-packed 3-episode review of the Bloodline Rewind. What did you think of Roman's actions to close out this show? We were going to be back next week with the go-home shows before Hell in a Cell, and I can't wait to give you all some news updates as we are inching closer to live crowds returning. And again, be sure to keep the Mongoose family in your thoughts. Send Goose a little message here in the comments below if you'd like to keep the good vibes and the spirits up here. If you've made it this far, make sure that you are supporting us by acknowledging us and hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like on this video. All the support we really appreciate. But with that, I'm Johnny Bake Show, and we just called it in the ring.